So this video is going to cover effectively why it's so important to get into that 90-day world, why it's so important to plan our time together and make sure that we're all focusing the resources that we have on the leadership team, on the common objectives that we have, and why it's so important to use rock milestones and use that weekly tactical meeting to make sure that we're accountable to each other to get those rocks done. So one of the things that we are trying to do here is get into a 90-day world. And the other thing that we're trying to do is really focus on how do we prioritize the time that we're going to spend as a leadership team on the most important things. And it really comes down to, when you think about work, there's really 4 different types of work that take place in any organization. The first of those are fire drills. We all know what fire drills are. They're incredibly important to do, but they add literally 0 value to the business. They're important, but not really making us any better. The second are the things that are truly, we agree, these are our major priorities. It's where we want, as a team, to focus our individual efforts. Now that's what we're going to set as 90-day rocks, right? That's where we want the energy to be. And we want to work as a team to set those priorities and make sure we all agree on how are we going to spend our time. The third are bright, shiny objects, those things that come up in the middle of the quarter, or pet projects, those things that they're really important to me, but I'm going to spend, 40 hours this quarter, focus on it, and I'm sure everyone's going to love it. Well, we want to avoid those things. Those are literally the enemy of those priorities. They get in the way, they pull energy away, so we want to use the long-term issues list or the 3-year vision to be able to really make sure those things don't get in the way of what we need to accomplish in those 90 days. They don't have to die, they just have to wait until they're priorities. And the fourth is just time spent wasted, kind of BS time, not necessarily focused on being productive. So we want to make sure that we're really agreeing on what those priorities are, keeping the bright, shiny objects out, keeping the pet projects out, and really focusing on solving those issues and solving those priorities. Now, when you do that, one of the things that really comes from that is your issues are largely going to come from the fire drills that you find yourself repeatedly fighting. So if you're fighting the same fire over and over again, guess what? There's something wrong. There's some reason why that's taking place. So the more you can focus on getting those priorities done, the more you can focus on solving the issues that are causing the fire drills in the first place. And if you do that, the fire drills will go away, which means, guess what? You can spend more time on your actual priorities themselves and make the business better and better and better. Now this connects also to, you think about those priorities and why it's so important to hold each other and be accountable to each other. So every week in your weekly tactical meeting, you're going to build milestones, and those rocks are the things that we're going to say every week are on track or off track. If they're on track, that's great. If they're off track, you're going to put that off track in the meeting, and you're going to figure out how to get back on track if possible, or work as a team to figure out how to best to do that. Well, that's accountability there. And there's something called the procrastination curve. It's a very real thing. Effectively, we start off with great plans, we get very distracted, we do almost no work on things, and guess what? At the last minute, we pull an all-nighter, whatever we need to do to get as much progress as we can. That is not a particularly effective way of doing things. So what we want to do for those rocks is use every single week, be accountable to each other, and use that on-track, off-track to really make sure that we're taking that BS time I talked about and focusing on not stuff that's not productive, but pouring it right back into those rocks to make sure those are done well. So when you really focus on your priorities, when you drown out the bright, shiny objects and pet projects, when you use the accountability to each other to take that time that might be spent wasted on things that aren't productive and focus them on those rocks, you find that the fire drills start going away and you have even more time to focus on your priorities.